Hey, I'm Courtney Brooke, and this is Hustle for Happiness podcast. We are all on this journey to find happiness, and let's face it, it takes work. And honestly, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. This podcast is dedicated to helping you navigate life and cut through the noise. As a certified life coach, recovering perfectionist, and survivor of the foster care system, I'm all about keeping things real. With my unique outlook on life that is truly infectious, we cover everything from achieving happiness and optimal self-care to stories of those sharing their wisdom and expertise. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Now, let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Hustle for Happiness podcast. I am so excited to share this episode with you with Sky Quartararo today. Sky Quartararo is a 32-year-old celebrity makeup artist and influencer based in Orange County, California. She has been part of the beauty community for over 10 years after starting her career shortly after getting married almost 11 years ago. Sky has been freelancing since 2017 after over a decade of experience in the industry. With over 11 years of experience in the beauty industry, Sky has worked on high-profile campaign shoots for magazines such as Maxim and brands including House of Lashes, NYX Cosmetics, and Vichy Dolls. She has also done makeup for reality stars on shows for Bravo, like The Real Housewives of Orange County and Selling OC. Her celebrity clientele includes influencer personalities like Delaney Childs, Amber Lancaster, Lindsay Harrod, and Courtney Keller. Additionally, Sky has done makeup for NFL Network host Taylor Bisciotti. Beyond her work behind the chair, Sky creates influential content for top fashion and beauty brands. She has produced digital campaigns and tutorials for brands like It Cosmetics, Armani, Patrick Ta, Good American, NYX Cosmetics, Savage Fenty, Milk Makeup, and Set in Stones. Sky's expertise and creative vision have established her as a sought-after makeup professional and creator within the industry. Since starting her career, Sky has been an active pursuit to change the way women see themselves one face at a time. Beyond her successful career, what I admire most is Skylar's journey of radical acceptance. On today's show, Skylar opens up about overcoming struggles with body image, anxiety, and seeking approval stemming from her competitive figure skating background and being homeschooled as a child. You'll be inspired by Skylar's story of transformation after a pivotal decision to fully embrace herself. She now focuses on daily self-care, prioritizing inner joy over pleasing people, and finding peace through her faith. I know Skylar's insight on radical self-love, inner beauty, and choosing happiness will resonate deeply. Welcome, Skylar. So I'm so happy you're here, Skylar, Sky.
Yes.
All the things.
Uh-huh.
Not only are you an incredible beauty, not just influencer, makeup artist, but you've had quite the self-discovery journey,
Yes.
the self-acceptance journey. And so I want you to just kind of go straight into that and how that even started.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for having me too. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, so I would say it was about 10 years ago that I started working in the beauty industry. I got married when I was 21. Before that, I was a figure skater for 10 years.
Really?
Yeah. And
Wait, I
so,
love that.
yeah, so I kind of I would say struggled a bit finding the direction to go in because that was my life for so long from the time I was 4 till I was 15. I was homeschooled that entire time as well. So my first year in school was 8th grade. And so I would say shifting into learning into a normal setting was really challenging because it was okay, I'm used to one-on-one training all day and school was very secondary. So then fast forward into high school, all that, I was okay, I cannot learn at this pace, just taking even notes the same way other people do. Everything was challenging in a way where I was noticing my differences, I would say. Then after high school, I went to college and I was like, okay, hated it. Didn't really want to be in it. It was like just more to make my parents happy. I met my husband simultaneously through that time, and we got married when I was 21.
Oh my God.
So from there, I was like, okay, I have to work. Like, what do I want to do? I was still kind of going to college, and I started working at the Clinique counter when I was 21 years old, I believe. Yeah. So at that point, I had no idea like I wanted to be in the beauty industry at all.
Yeah.
My friend Sean at that time had done my makeup for all my wedding stuff. And he was kind of like pretty like, I would say he was established in the makeup community, but really like trying to freelance and start his own thing. So he would take me around with him everywhere and do my makeup and use me as his model for everything.
Okay.
So through that, I kind of learned just different techniques, picked up on things. And I was like, I really like this. I was finding a lot of like creativity and fulfillment just from learning from him and then working at the counter as well. I think through that time, I was like, okay, well, I don't see myself like really doing this long term. It was kind of just a stepping stone. So I was like, I want to work at the counter, see how I like it. And I really loved most connecting with women. And I felt like that was really like maybe my aha moment of what I enjoyed was mostly like the connection with other women. And so I was like, okay, let me just sit women down, talk with them, kind of see like where they're at and just like really learn from people and learn our differences and our commonalities. And through that, the next like couple years, I was like, it was 2015 through 16 was when the beauty industry really was taking off.
Yeah.
So
that's probably when I think social media hit.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think when I got married, Instagram just started. Like 2013 was when Instagram started. Yeah. So through that, I was like, okay, maybe there is something to this. I'm really learning more and really starting to enjoy makeup and education around makeup and skincare. And so I just kind of took that opportunity to practice with people at the counter and just, do little demos on them and really seeing how like connecting and just spending time with women and giving them an open space to talk or whatever, connect, make them feel beautiful was so like pivotal and really made me feel a lot of purpose.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I would kind of look around me and be like, oh my gosh, all these women have been here for like 10, 15 years. And I was like, this cannot be me. I can't be stuck at a counter. So fast forward, I moved to Orange County. I was living in the Inland Empire prior to that. And I knew I needed to change my environment. I think there's a lot of like small-minded people there. It was kind of like, this is what you do. And outside of this wasn't really like, I guess, shown, or there wasn't a lot of people doing more than that. And so I was like, okay, I need to shift my environment. So we moved out of there. I started working in Bloomingdale's at South Coast Plaza in Orange County. And even then I was like, okay, this is a stepping stone. I really didn't feel like this is where I wanted to be or grow. I just knew it was a time to like, get me from the next place in my career. And so from there, I was like, okay, I think I could freelance and I really need to get out of working in a department store or a 9-to-5, so to say. And during that time, my dad was struggling a lot with addiction. And so with that, I was faced with a lot of anxiety myself because I was very much like, is he going to be okay? Am I going to get a phone call? Is something going to happen? The worry all the time. And I was really learning anxiety myself. I think at the time, people had talked about it, but not in the way that it's talked about now so openly. So like all the feelings and symptoms I was having in my body, I really didn't understand.
Yeah.
So I was kind of calling out a lot and I was like, I don't want to be in here anymore. I really just feel like I'm not being used to my fullest potential. So I decided one day like just to quit, and I did not put in my 2 weeks, nothing. I gave myself no option to go back. And at that time, my husband was like, I'm going to buy you your little Zuka bag, which was like the little bag makeup artists would use at the time. And I had a bunch of gratis and makeup just piled in my room from working at different counters. So I used all that to put a kit together. And that's kind of where my journey began with freelancing.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just used all the makeup from your history and was like, and I'm not like, it's not like you didn't have anything.
No, I had enough to get started. And I think that was pivotal time for me. I was, I think, 25, and I really shifted everything in my mentality at that time. It was like I wanted to get to a place where I was no longer confined by my own ideas around my self, my identity, my body image, all those things. And that was kind of really, I would say, the start of my journey of self-development and just reflecting on like who I wanted to be and like stop letting the ideas of maybe what people told me about myself block me from like the next step in my life.
Yeah. And that comparison is so sneaky.
Yeah.
Like even as you said, as a child, going from homeschool to a public school, or, you know, the women working at the counter for 10 years. And then there's me, or, you know, not that you weren't gonna stay at the counter, but like there's that comparison that pops up.
Right.
How do you, I mean, you work with women constantly. I mean, from celebrities to people in the industry to even your own career of influencing in the beauty industry. How do you not compare yourself? Like, what are some like key things that really you hold true for yourself?
Yeah. I would say one thing that's really helped me within being a makeup artist and not having that comparison is that I really don't identify as my career, I would say. So like I don't see myself as like my self-worth is my career or what I do to make money. I just see makeup as this opportunity to, obviously I have to make money, so it provides that. But it more than anything provides an opportunity to meet so many women and connect with so many women. And I hold it to such a different standard than like, oh, I do this thing that validates me and makes me, I guess, be perceived a certain way, being good at something. I don't really connect to it in that way where like I'm a makeup artist and like how my work reflects gives me validation and self-worth.
Yeah, so, you're not putting it all into that.
Yeah, there's not so much weight on it. So that kind of frees me from comparing in that way because I'm doing it more out of the intention of my sole purpose rather than like to get external validation.
Yeah. And I think like that's so big because when you aren't fulfilled, it's easy to compare.
Right.
And so you haven't in your career leading up to it before you got your Zuka bag and hit the road and started your career. There was that comparison. There was that lack of fulfillment. There was that probably that feeling of not fitting in or what am I going to do?
Right. Yeah. I think too, my biggest turning point and struggle when it came to like self-acceptance was my image with my body and connecting that with my happiness. So I would say like being a figure skater or being in any competitive sport, especially that's like female dominant. There's so much comparison as a little girl. You are just from the beginning compared and competing with other women. And I would say in my nature, I'm not a competitive person in that way. That's to my core, not how I am. So I think there was always things pointed out, whether it be being taller, more muscular, whatever, just the differences that people really like to point out, make you, I think when you're a kid and you're like being like criticized or things are being brought up for anything being different about you, it develops as an insecurity.
Absolutely.
Right? So I felt like when I was younger, that was always brought up of being like tall and like being in skating. A lot of women were very petite, and that was kind of like the prototype of like an ice skater, similar to like gymnasts, right? So that was always a topic, and to this day is still something that's brought up. But I would say I really struggled in my early like teen years through my early 20s of accepting myself and my differences and being completely okay with it. And I really shifted, like I said, when I was like 25 years old, of being like, it really doesn't matter. It's such a waste of time to be insecure. It literally robs you of everything you are really, you know, trying to do and reaching your fullest potential. Because if you're sitting there criticizing yourself all day and being insecure about things no one's probably noticing, you are so distracted by moving forward and reaching the goals and things that you really want to achieve in your life. And I decided consciously to not give my energy to that anymore.
Yeah.
And I chose, like, I was always super athletic and working out all the time. And I just decided, like, okay, I'm going to eat the best I can and work out. And wherever that leaves my body, I'm going to accept that and be okay with that. And I think as soon as I decided to accept everything about myself, whether it's like your body, your face, whatever it is.
Yeah, the common things that people in society look at, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that really gave me so much peace. And that's when all the doors opened for me, truly. And that's when I was able to like start my own business and not feel like anxiety around what people thought about it.
Yeah.
I just really didn't care. I was just like, I need to do something different and nothing's going to change if I don't make changes.
And it's for you.
Yeah. And so I started, just being conscious every day in my thoughts, how I viewed myself, how I talked to myself. And it wasn't like this sole thing that I depended my happiness on anymore. And I felt like once I shifted that, I was able to step into spaces so confidently. And I could tell when I shifted my mentality, people saw me differently too.
Yeah, like you were seen in the way you've always actually wanted to be seen, probably, huh?
Exactly. And it was interesting too, during that time, I was signed with a modeling agency. And I used to think like, okay, like if I could book these jobs, then I'll feel worthy, then I'll feel beautiful and accepted. And during that time, I was like, I'm releasing that. I don't care about that anymore. I'm just not going to like live my life to feel accepted and to feel worthy by my external appearance. I think that should be the least interesting thing about me.
Yeah.
And I actually like submitted myself to this contest with Too Faced Cosmetics.
Yeah.
And I was with the agency, but I did that on my own. And I got chosen for top 10 and we filmed this like whole thing in their studio. And it was so, I would say like a full circle moment because I had worked on myself so much. And it was like interesting just going into that, not caring about the outcome.
Yeah.
And just like even being there with all the girls who were a bit younger than me. And I would say completely different in like body type and just everything, and I was like, wow. And I'm here. And that's so beautiful because not that it was like the validation, it was just more like, look at how far you could come by just loving and accepting yourself as you are.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I personally struggle with being from not being a cheerleader, but from being a cheerleader and a gymnast, those female industries, like, do I have the chiseled body? Do I have? And it's that constant thing. It's a constant choice for me to this day. Yeah. Like, it's not like some days I wake up and think, oh, I'm beautiful. Some days I do, right? Then I not snap out of it, but I have to self-talk. Like, your body has been through this. Mm-hmm. Your body has been, like with my ruptured implant, like there's some days where I just be waking up so bloated, but it's loving myself and meeting myself where I'm at that day. Because I can say that some days I'm like, hell yeah, I'm confident. And it's not wearing makeup. It's with my hair in a bun. And I'm like, I am beautiful. Yeah. And I feel beautiful. And I think what I'm hearing is that self-acceptance piece allows you to even radiate even more.
Absolutely. And people will respond to that energy.
Yeah.
And it gives you an openness too. I think when you don't feel good with yourself and you feel really critical of yourself, you're more prone to be critical of others.
Yeah.
And that energy really radiates off of you.
Yeah.
But when you really feel acceptant of all your flaws or just, any areas that you might have thought were an insecurity, you're really able to love on other people fully.
Yeah.
And you're able to compliment other women, see people's potential. I feel like that's been one of the greatest gifts that I feel like I've been given, is been being able to see someone and see what they're good at and help them cultivate whatever it is that they want to do. And I feel like that's something that only comes along with, feeling completely secure and confident in yourself.
And it's not like you just woke up that day and was like, I'm confident today. Are there any tips? I mean, people listening in, people struggle with, the anxiety, like you said, when you had it with your dad and addiction and, overcoming, starting a school, starting a business, these different milestones in your life have led you to have this confidence because you've gotten through it. But as a woman, as a woman in the industry,
Yeah.
what are some things that, you still have to consciously remind yourself, or what are some mantras that you have that, instill that confidence for you to keep living with that confidence?
I think it's like a day-to-day choice also, like the
Yeah,
self-talk in your mind,
absolutely.
or even the days that you don't feel as good about certain areas of your body or whatever it might be. Like I've also like researched so much in like our hormones and why our body functions the way that it does as
Yeah.
a woman. And I just feel like knowing that and having that insight also gives you so much validation and like your fluctuation throughout even a month and how your body could look so different at one point to the next throughout the month. And I think that ultimately I look at myself, and if there's times where I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I'm a little bloated or just like uncomfortable, I always think like, well, that kind of came out of times that I was enjoying myself, or I was with friends, eating what I wanted, having drinks, whatever it might be. Those were out of times that were really fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
So just having grace on myself and being like, that's okay. It's not, I always think too, like, I don't look at women, and I don't think other people do either, as their body type defining their beauty.
Yeah.
I could see a woman at any size, and if they are accepting and just like radiating just positive, beautiful energy, they look beautiful to me, but it's like you're drawn to them because their internal being is probably at peace or accepting. So just realizing in myself, like I look at other women like that. I don't think anyone is, looking at me or critiquing me in that way,
Because you're not doing it to yourself.
Exactly.
And I love that statement of like, when you're hard on yourself, you're critical of others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this self-love, but this unconditional love is what I'm hearing in your life. I'm not sure your background with, your parents and your dad about receiving that unconditional love, but it sounds like you're giving that to yourself regardless.
Right.
And so it allows you to show up for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, just to touch on like upbringing too, being that I was in a very like competitive environment since I was so young, I felt like my perception of my parents' love for me was really contingent upon performance.
Oh.
And so I'm really noticing, and that's something I'm currently working through right now, is just not being performative for love. And I think my nature is to be very people pleasing.
Yeah.
That's just who I am to my core. So I'm realizing with that will bring up, I think, like resentment and unwanted like frustration, because you're constantly trying to pour into other people and not choosing maybe what's healthiest for you. Maybe it's what I want to do for other people, but maybe my capacity isn't there and it's not healthy for me. So I think that learning like to do things out of your genuine spirit of like, okay, this is what I have the capacity for right now.
Yeah.
And instead of doing it out of ego, in a sense of like, if I don't do it, will they not like me anymore?
Right.
Or will they not love me in that way anymore?
Right. Like it's contingent on them.
Yes.
Like what comes to mind for me is like when I'm working with some of my clients, or even just talking with friends about this, like recovering people pleasers, is, the simple thought, not a simple thought, but a question that I'm asking myself constantly is, am I doing this for them or for me?
Yeah.
Am I seeking their validation through that? Then what would I do if I wasn't?
Yeah.
And how does that look?
Yeah.
And how can I show up like that?
Totally. Yeah. I know. And that's like again, it's like an exercise muscle.
Yes.
And I think it's like something that I really noticed is like we're so made off of like thought patterns of like our early developmental years of like, okay, so we thought this way about love. So we've kind of based everything off of that in our behaviors.
Yeah.
And so I'm really actively every day trying to do the opposite of what I by nature want to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm noticing how it's affecting me. Right. And I want to be able to pour into other people unlimitedly, but I can't do that if I'm pouring energy into the wrong spaces. And I think when you are someone that's more people pleasing, you attract a certain personality over and over and over again, because that's the dynamic that feels comfortable to me.
Yeah, like you're mirroring what you need. And so you're people pleasing, and so they're people pleasing. And so you're both are externally like validating each other.
Well, I find for me, I actually attract more people that are similar to the dynamic that I had with my mom.
Okay.
And I felt like I was always, reading her energy all the time and always wanting to perform.
Being
to
like
make
hypervigilant.
sure, she's healthy and happy. So then I attract a lot of personalities, I would say, that are wavering a lot, and that I could kind of like, I know how to deal with this. Like, this is so my nature to like figure it out and always make sure everyone's good in the room and like regulate emotions.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what feels comfortable to me. And now that I've grown and done a lot of healing, that doesn't feel healthy to me anymore, because I've healed through that. And so I'm trying to actively be around people that are not, setting that dynamic up again in future relationships.
So you're not repeating your patterns.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's really challenging because it's doing the opposite of what by nature I want to do. And that's choosing what's healthier for me. And that's not ever what feels like the right thing to do for me, because I'm always more concerned.
Foreign.
Yeah, I'm very concerned with like how I'm affecting people all the time. And I really want to make a positive impact on anyone in my life and make everyone in my life feel like I'm of benefit and making their life better, adding value to them. But that being said, that could be draining. And when it's in the right space and like the relationship flows and people are also, giving that back, it feels so beautiful and amazing and healthy. But I've recognized those patterns in myself by like the people I naturally attract, because I'm willing to give so much space and so much time and energy and give all the things I can.
You're so giving.
Yeah.
Like I remember growing up in foster care and like even going into my adoptive family, I really resonate with how you said I was constantly watching my mom. And so you're constantly watching your environment. You bring that role. That's how you survived that in your family. And so we bring our roles into us in adulthood. Sure. And maybe it's our family or the jobs were not fulfilled or the type of people or what we're saying or doing, and so being consciously aware of like, I know that girl.
Right.
But I don't need to be her anymore. Because I have constantly, I'm so hyper vigilant of, I'm dependent on their mood. Like if James is upset, my husband, then I'm just like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do to help him? Because if he's in a good mood, then I'm in a good mood. But what I've personally been working on is a similarity of this is, he can be in a bad mood and I can support him and I can still be happy. And it's no direct correlation. And it's hard to, like, for me, I have to separate, like, I don't need to fix. I don't need to have the environment perfect for it to be okay.
Yeah. And I think that's a conditioning, because we're so used to being like, okay, if I could fix this and make this person happy, then we could all be good and everything could feel safe. Yes. And I think that's what we want to feel, is just safe. Yeah. Right. But it's not our responsibility. And everyone also has their own processes of dealing with their emotions.
Yes.
And releasing that expectation off of them to like deal with it the way that we would.
Yeah, it's almost manipulation, because we're trying to control their moods based on our moods. So we're going to say or do things to control them by how we feel.
Yeah. And that's not fair.
It's not kind. Fair. It's not kind to them.
Yeah. And I think that's like, it could be also very just exhausting too.
Oh, I'm exhausted, like thinking, and like I'm so glad, like, but it's like you're working through it, you're seeing it, and so it's exhausting to also live it that way, or like exhaust yourself trying to just keep noticing that pattern and keep growing and keep evolving. I mean, choose your heart.
Right. Yeah, and I think too, it's just like learning. Ultimately, we only have control over our own emotions and how we want to deal with different environments, relationships, and also letting people go through their own process, because just because we've dove in and worked through something and like come to healing on it doesn't mean that that person has.
Yes.
And it's not,
I love that.
up to us to make sure that they get to where we're at. Everyone's on a different path.
Right. And what makes you think that that's what they want?
Exactly.
Like, that's assuming that that's not seeing them as an equal. Like, oh, I want like, for instance, my sister, I found out like a couple of years ago that we're not connected. She actually went back to my birth mom, but she sent me a message through Facebook and was like, I got promoted at Subway to manager. And I was like, oh, if she just had my life, she'd be so much happier. And so then I was talking to Abby, my mentor, and she was like, well, what makes you think she wants your life? What makes you think she wants? And I'm like, oh my gosh, who am I to say that I'm better? Who am I to think that that's what she wants just because I'm having a good time? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, we put our own experiences, our own current life thinking, oh, that's what they want because it's better. And so it's an interesting dynamic to think that way.
Yeah, because I think a lot of us are just seeing it through our lens, and we all have such different experiences in life.
Yeah.
So we all can't have the same perspective on everything.
And being okay with that.
Yeah.
And not like being okay with it, like what you said at your two-face like photo shoot with all these different women. It's like, it's okay. Differences are good. It doesn't mean we're less.
Yeah.
Because I've had to come like to terms in the self-acceptance piece of like knowing like I am enough without or with, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not the tallest, right? And so like that's okay.
Yeah.
It's everything is okay. It's that, but that acceptance of we don't have to be the same to be worthy or have the same.
Right. Totally. I think too, a lot of women, I look around now and everyone looks very similar.
Okay. What are you seeing? I mean, you work with women in beauty and like, I mean, doing makeup, working, like, what are you seeing like in this world?
I think everyone, it trips me out because I feel like maybe I come in contact with more people than the average person, different people all the time.
You're seeing a lot of people, you're doing a lot of makeup, you're traveling a lot. I mean, think of you bridal parties.
Yeah.
Like that's like 10 women in one day and it's over a weekend. So you're seeing things.
So many things. Yeah.
But regardless of that, but what are you seeing?
I think a lot of women look very similar because everyone is experimenting with fillers, Botox, all the things, right? Which I'm all for. Do whatever makes you feel beautiful and good. But I think we're all like, everyone like shows me the same inspo photo. Everyone's talking the same. Everyone is saying very similar things. And I feel like you don't hear a lot of original ideas anymore.
Oh, really?
But by nature, I think that's going to happen because we're so exposed to the same information all the time, like with Instagram and TikTok. And everyone is very well, I think we're all overstimulated because there's just so much information all the time.
All the time.
You just see trends in the things that people talk about. And it's just so like interesting to observe because I don't feel like a lot of people have a lot of individuality anymore.
Yeah.
And a part of that I kind of like because it's like girlhood, like we all kind of like the same things. And, I think that's...
But there is the meaning. I'm curious the meaning you put when you say I'm seeing a lot of the same. What meaning do you put to that? Does it scare you? I'm just curious what comes to mind.
I feel like it's like concerning because I feel like not a lot of people are having their own opinions and thoughts maybe on style, of individuality, of their idea of beauty maybe. And it's just like repeating the same thing.
Or seeing what someone else is doing. And so it's like when I have that, I'll be that thought you said earlier with when I book that photo shoot or when I have, for me, sometimes when I fit into those jeans or like me post surgeries, when I get my anesthesia, like when I calm down from my inflammation, I'll be happy with my new boob job.
Yeah.
Like when.
Right.
Interesting.
And I always really try and comment on when I see someone so individually beautiful and not looking like everyone else.
Yes.
Because I want them to know their features, have history and have so much beauty to them. And I want them to feel celebrated in that.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times it's hard to, when you're seeing like an ideal beauty standard on the internet.
Yeah.
But some of the most interesting features are the most like beautiful to me because I'm so used to seeing the same thing.
Or it's altered or the same like small noses or,
Right. And, Yeah. And I think that's like, obviously that's going to happen. Like, why wouldn't? We're all like, internalizing the same images and same information daily. So of course we're going to perceive that a certain way. And even when I notice that in myself, when trends start happening with like clothes or shoes, whatever, fashion, I'm like, do I really like that? Or do I just like it because I keep seeing it? You know? So I try to not purchase anything until it really feels like, no, that's something I really like.
I love that because it's so easy to be influenced.
Right. Oh my gosh,
it's so, I mean, I did a whole episode on like influencing and de-influencing is because it really does shape not only, I mean, you said the what we shop, but now you said how we're looking. People are influenced by aesthetically everything right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's so accessible too. Like even me, I have all my credit cards attached to Instagram. So or my Shop Pay or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's cute. Add. And it's just like, and I really am making a conscious effort to stop doing that because I really want to do things that feel really authentic to myself and just not waste money in that way anymore.
Or because you can.
Yeah.
Right. Like
totally. But I do find like the struggle in that because everyone is very like influenced by a certain beauty standard, fashion, makeup, everything, which I think there's a place for it. And I think that it's like overall a beautiful thing. But I think it's really hard for people to like be connected to like their authentic like desires of what they actually like.
All right.
You know?
My thing, what comes to mind is like, how do you navigate staying authentically true to yourself when there is so many societal pressures?
Right.
How do you find out? How do you listen? How do you even find that voice? Or like you said, do I want this? Or does this speak to me authentically?
Yeah.
But like staying true when, we have all this dopamine, the stimulation, the societal pressures, and you working with women directly, like how do you stay true to yourself, or how do you? I bet you instill it in the women that sit in your chair too.
Yeah, I really try to do that. More than anything, when I'm doing makeup, I want it to be so much more than me just doing makeup on their face. I want to have an overall experience with every client that I have because I think I'm in a position where I'm directly dealing with people's confidence.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of challenges with that because a lot of times people don't see themselves the way that I see them. And I feel like it's me kind of fighting against the overall insecurities that they have. And I know there's like a big expectation on me to make them feel a certain way, you know?
And they want to look, well, it's that thing when I have Skylar do my makeup, I'm going to look and feel this way. That's a lot of pressure on you.
Exactly. So knowing that, I'm always like, okay, I go into this and a lot of times I like to ask the question, like, what do you want to feel like? Not what is your inspo photo, not like who you want to look like. What do you want to feel like?
Yeah.
And I feel like that gives me a more authentic gauge on like what someone's ultimate goal is after.
Yeah.
Because I could do someone's makeup and then be like, to everyone else, like, wow, you look amazing. But they're maybe not comfortable with either the amount of makeup or like a certain style of lashes or lip color that it's like, if they're not going to see it that way, then there's nothing I can say or do to get them to see and perceive it through how everyone else is. So knowing how they want to feel, knowing like kind of doing a deep dive of like their psychology and understanding the way they think and how they perceive themselves, it really gives me a better gauge on like how I want to apply makeup and how I want to give them an overall experience.
Do your job better because you're authentically, like I've gotten my makeup done by you. And I remember getting my makeup done and just feeling genuinely heard. I mean, we talked forever. And like, even when you did my makeup tutorial, we were on the iPhone for like forever. It was just, you make people feel heard and seen, not by the amount of makeup, right? It's that, but by that feeling that type of way.
Well, thank you for saying that.
And attracting that. Where did that first start for you? I mean, I hear all this self-love and this self-acceptance and, you know, not the easiest upbringing. Bringing it sounded like or even with the dynamic of your family and with your dad and even going through school. I mean, these are all things that have added to who you are today, but it's not like it just started. Where did you learn this? I mean, I just hear this acceptable amount of love.
Yeah. I think I have probably turned into the person that I maybe always wanted for myself.
Okay.
Whether it being a friend, a partner, an experience getting your makeup done.
Yeah.
I think so often people don't feel like they have the space, or people are giving them the platform to say their feelings or to be heard. And I think that that's so important, because that's ultimately what makes me feel the most fulfilled, is knowing that I'm able to give this person maybe just an hour of time to just say whatever's on their mind, to maybe encourage them in an area that they're feeling insecure in, or maybe encourage them in like a business venture, or just giving someone, you could see people's energy fully shift when they feel heard and feel poured into.
Yeah,
And
we all want to be heard.
Yeah.
I mean, the acknowledgement piece, like, I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that maybe when I was younger, I didn't feel that way. And I feel like my parents gave me so much. They gave me so much opportunity, financial stability. I felt like they did really love me at the capacity that they had to love me, and they didn't have the resources that parents have now. They didn't go to therapy. They didn't have all this information online to do better and be better. So I have grace on them for the areas that maybe they weren't able to show up for me in. But knowing that, I always feel now like I think people really want just to feel validated and loved on. And I feel like I have a lot of that to give. That kind of tying into not stretching myself too thin, because that's when I feel like a little bit more run down, and I feel like I'm not in my clearest, best self. When it with work, with friends, with whatever, that I feel like that's something I'm trying to make a conscious effort in, to not overextend myself, to not say yes to everything, to not do so many clients, because it's really, quality over quantity.
Yeah, it's like that. I don't want to say it's a boundary, but it's healthy, it's balanced. And so how do you prioritize your happiness and well-being during, you do travel a lot, and your relationship with your husband and your own business? How do you prioritize your happiness?
To be completely transparent, I'm still working on that.
And I love that. Thank you for being honest.
I would say by nature, I am a cup half full type of person, positive.
Okay.
And I am by nature really happy. But I would say like true like peace and like joy and feeling good just internally, it is hard when you're trying to juggle so many things, of course. I would say my relationship with my husband is so key and instrumental to like my joy and happiness in life, because he is the best partner that I could ever ask for, and just so loving and kind, and shows up in so many ways for me at all times, for me to be able to perform at the capacity I am with taking so many clients, or just like we have a very easy flow in partnership. It's like we show up in the areas that the other one needs. There's no like set, like you do this, I do that, we contribute in this way. It's just very much a flow in our time and what we want to do for one another. So I feel like that's really key for me. And I feel like he deserves so much credit and validation in that area. I always say like the way that we're being loved really shows up in every area of our life. And if we're being loved well, we're able to love others well. And I feel like my husband's always loved me so intentionally and so well for our whole marriage, that it's allowed me the space to heal and become the woman I want to be. So that would be one key. And then just practical things, like every day I'm always listening to an encouraging podcast. I'm always working out. I'm always trying my best to put good things into my body. And when I'm not doing that and I'm going to dinner and having drinks and being with friends, like I prioritize that too, because I think that is just as much important as going to the gym. And maybe it's not like the healthy thing internally to do, but mentally.
Right. I mean, there's a dimensional way to do this. And there's no recipe. Like some people just don't go to the gym either though.
Right.
But all they do is eat out.
Right.
So there's no one recipe.
Right.
But you're saying having this balance, what else has helped?
I feel like having grace on yourself and just not putting so much pressure on a routine all the time. I think a lot of us put a lot of pressure on a routine. Agree. And I remember doing that in like 2020 when I was like, working on my anxiety and everything. And I was like, okay, if I just wake up, I do devotion, I read this book, I drink a green smoothie, I go on a walk, then I work out, then I'll feel good. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the way I was so anxious just to get those things done, I was like, this is counterproductive. Yeah, it is. It's making me feel worse. Yeah. So I just do what feels right day to day. Yeah. And like, I know I'm going to feel good by working out, whether that's walking or going to the gym. Like I just prioritize that. And then I feel like every day I have a lot of fun in the very minor things. Like me and my husband are very playful with each other. We act like little kids all the time. Like we have a lot of fun in very like silly ways. It's not like so much pressure all the time. Okay. And I think a lot of people lose that. They lose like that childlike side of them, because of being stressed for work or other circumstances,
I can relate to that.
And I feel like that's key to like joy and happiness. And I've been really trying in the last year to do things that made me like happy as a little kid. So I went to like take a dance class. I like went ice skating again. Like I'm just doing things that are like, healing your inner child, so to say, like make you feel young again. And I feel like that's so important that we lose sight of just finding things that bring us internal joy instead of like what we think will by doing this routine.
Right. And there's so much, with that routine, it's so big on like social media of like, have this juice at this time, do this at this. And it's just, it's counterproductive because you're already starting your day with like this list. It's like some days you're like, I wake up at 6. Some days I'm like, I work out at 5. There is no perfect, but I think meeting yourself, I totally agree with that. I think just the grace of like some days, like again, like you said, as a woman, different times of the month, we're not feeling it.
Yeah.
We're more emotional and like, let it.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's not, no one cares as much as you do. Like, I think we put these like fake
True. I think everyone's looking at us.
Yeah. Or just like, even with doing more like trying to do more of the content-based work this year, I'm like on my days off, I'm trying to do that, you know, but that's also an unreasonable amount of pressure to put on your plate because then you're not taking any time. You're just working
and still working.
And so I'm trying to designate certain days to everything. And I have like, I try one day a week just to have a day where I do nothing.
Like nothing on the phone or just chill out on the couch or
just chill on the couch.
Good.
And just eat whatever I want and just like not responding to people, not posting, not, trying to schedule, just literally doing nothing.
I love that.
And that's something that is really important for me to implement because I don't have a normal Monday through Friday schedule. Yeah. And I think a lot of people do that on the weekend. They have like their day on the weekend to just do whatever they want. And I don't have that because I'm working weekends. So then Monday would come. Usually I'd be off on a Monday and then I would feel really guilty for like not being at the gym, not doing like the routine. And it's like, no, like you need a day just to like shut off your mind, decompress and like not have any expectations for yourself. It really recharges you.
And not being so hard on ourselves that we have to do all these things because again, other people are what's expected. And really the pressure we're putting on, I'm hearing on ourselves is really at the end of the day, only you. The war is only in between your head.
Right.
Like outside of like our own heads is like, it's actually everything's okay.
Right. Yeah, because everyone's on their own path. No one's concerned about what you're producing or doing. Like, and everyone has a threshold, right? So we have to be, in tune to that. And there's also like external situations that people are going through too, like family stuff or whatever it may be.
Or whatever. Yeah.
So I think just ultimately having more grace on ourselves will allow us to also have more grace on others and be more patient and like overall our well-being and spirit feeling better and more balanced.
Yeah, and I love that piece of it's again, I think this common theme that we've had today is just this self-acceptance. Like unconditionally love yourself. Like me, I think of like what I talk to Olivia, my French bulldog, like that, you know, like, and so I'm like, no. So why am I talking to myself like that? Why am I thinking of that about someone else? And I think that self-critical piece I just love so much is like, if you're so hard on yourself, you're probably hard on others.
Right. Yeah.
And it starts with ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can go to the gym, but if you don't have it starts with your thoughts, like it'll never be enough.
Right.
And loving that part.
Yeah. And I think another piece that helped me too is like not doing it for an external aesthetic of like how I look. Like, let me go for a walk because that's going to make me feel good. Let me go to the gym because that's good for my body.
But that's what you want.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I feel like that ultimately feels like it shifts the responsibility of like, oh, I'm not doing this because I look bad or I need to lose weight or whatever.
Yeah.
You're just doing it because you genuinely know it's going to feel good and it's going to be good for your body. And then whatever maybe goals or results you want to come will eventually come.
Do you think that with that thought specifically is I'm doing this because it looks good or if someone else is doing it, you know, that external validation, but how have you gotten to that point? Because you were a skater, you were constantly hyper vigilant of your mother, your dad had, and you said addiction.
Yeah.
And so you're constantly aware, like, you know what I'm saying? How did you get to that point where you're like, I need to just silence that? How did you embrace your inner voice?
I think I got here by, I think it's more practical than anything. Okay. I think it's more a consistent, decision every day. And I think it's like, again, going back to like our thought patterns, like if you thought poorly about yourself, there was a reason why. There was like a comment, an overall tone of people's views of you, and you internalized that and repeated that pattern in your thoughts every day. So I consistently choose to do the opposite.
Yeah. And it's like this mind game. Like, 'cause I do the same thing. Like, what would I do if I wasn't?
Right. Yeah. And so I think when you do that, your brain starts naturally just doing it and believing it.
Yeah. It's like a muscle.
Yeah. And so I think that's something that I think by nature, with everything, all the visuals we see, the way we grew up, whatever it may be, we are going to be more naturally inclined to criticize ourselves or want to look different or better, you know?
Yeah.
But I think when you're actively being consistent in your thoughts and being intentional with your thoughts, you are able to change that chemistry in your brain and see yourself differently.
Yeah. And like clearly, if you visually see it, it's like it's like a split why.
Right.
This thought or this thought.
Yeah.
It's not easy for me to think this way, but it feels better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then again, you're going to think, okay, it feels better. It feels like to you, to me, to me, to me. And so that constant choice.
Right.
It's not easy.
Right.
It's not impossible.
What is like your perception now, like on your body and like
after doing the work and going through? It's crazy because the more I've loved myself, like you've said earlier, is, you know, I just started accepting myself actually this year.
Okay.
I've struggled with weight loss, the scale, the image of always looking in the mirror. I mean, my mom always told me everything I've done has been aesthetically driven my whole life. I mean, when I was a young girl, I'd try to be so perfect to get picked into a family.
Right.
Like I wanted to get adopted. Right. I wanted a family. Yeah. And so everything, my mom said I'd come home and everything in my drawers everything was neat. My bed was made a certain way. Like everything in my life is perfection. Yeah. And so I think it's more than just about my body, but letting go of this idea, like you said, when I have this weight, like I've gotten to my goal weight and I'm like, wait, I'm still feeling lack of, right? And so I'm like, well, what if I switched that thought process and said, what if I had everything I have right now? Yeah. And then that when it does come or when things do, for instance, when my skin clears up, like I had acne, for instance, I go, when I have acne, everything will be okay. And I'm like, I'm just going to embrace what I have now. And then acne wasn't so bad. Right. I didn't like search for it. I didn't strive for it, like grip onto that was my idea. And so same with my body images. I let go of this idea of this body image. I wasn't gripping for it. And it was actually not really what I wanted. Yeah. It was like, wait, I was chasing something that was this idea
Yeah.
that was ingrained in me.
Totally. I know that is it's so true, because when I think to another point to like how I got where I'm at now, I think about like who told me that this one beauty standard was the end all be all of what being beautiful means, right?
Yes.
And I think like a lot of us had parents that grew up in like a time where there was really only one beauty standard.
Yeah.
And that was oftentimes projected onto us as little girls.
Yeah.
You know?
What they perceived as, oh, my daughter will turn out right if she looks like this.
Exactly. And then I think the more I was detached from my family and my mom and dad and stuff, I was like, well, what do I think is beautiful? Like, what do I see
without their opinion in my head?
Exactly.
Like asking yourself the question.
Because I remember being like in high school and my body changing and getting like hips and a butt and like not being a little girl anymore. And I remember there was like a lot of conversation around it and it being a negative thing. And then the older I got, I was like, I like that. Like, I think that that's beautiful. Like, but because other people didn't, like, that's their own problem, you know? And so I really like, again, was trying to dive into like what I believed was beautiful.
And give weight to that. Because I think we give weight to, like you said, what our parents thought or, you know, what other people believe. And I'm like, what if I gave myself the own weight of my opinion?
Right.
What if I weighted myself more than giving them? Like, who are they? And I'm altering my whole life. Like, what? Wait, what? Let me get my power back. And so I started shifting my perspective and weighting my beliefs, my opinion, what matters to me. Just that's all that matters.
Yeah. I think that's the main step of everything to trying to find like peace with it. I think it's making peace with your body is like really the best approach.
And loving it for all it's been through. Like I learned as like in my healing journey, you know, through like with therapists and mentors and life coaches, and even just talking with fellow women like you and men too. I mean, it's a journey, but like just coming to peace and being okay and just starting within yourself.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think back to like the perfectionist like conversation, I feel like I could resonate a lot with like what you're saying in that sense where you're like, if I could just be this perfect, then I'll be adopted or someone will love me. And I feel like I was doing it in the area of like, if I could on the outside be this perfect, then it will save me from any criticism.
Yeah.
So I was like fearful of the criticism. And if I could just get to a point where like there was nothing to pick apart about me, then I would be accepted in love. Again, going back to me feeling like if I perform a certain way, I'm worthy enough, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. A lot of women struggle with is just wanting, especially relationally, I talk to a lot of single women that are just like want so badly to be in a relationship. And then it's so interesting when they tell me like the qualities they want in their partner. Cause I'm like, well, what do you want in your partner? Like what? And it's like, well, that is like not anything that I feel like is sustainable.
Right.
For like
but they're achieving that. That's what they're holding on to.
Yes. Yeah.
Like and so like that same idea of what we were holding on to, whether it's weight or this partner, they've been taught that when that's when they'll be happy. That's what success looks like.
Yeah. Or even it's a big reflection of like what they say they want in a partner is like the areas that they are struggling in themselves.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's like looking a certain way, how much money they have. And it's a lot of surface level things.
Yeah.
But that's one point that I always really try to drive into women that are, you know, in pursuit of finding a spouse is like, you really want these qualities because that is going to allow you to be the woman that is going to be your fullest potential. And then you guys will be able to have a healthy foundation and a healthy marriage. You know?
But I also, if we elaborate on if you have that partner, why not just find it with like, be your own partner,
right?
Like be the partner you need and you will attract that.
Oh,
you know, like I get clients and messages with relationships, and a lot of my calls are building confidence and rewiring and not reparenting, but evolving these thoughts that have been defining us and a lot of it is around being single and not having a partner. And it's a big topic.
Oh, for sure.
And it's sad because we've been taught even in Disney movies when you have Prince Charming, everything's good, or that person does complete you, but it's actually not. It's not the case. And I mean, we're both married, so it's different to say. But we've also been single. But we also see the other side of it, that when you meet yourself, like, you're gonna have a partner that just brings you up even more.
Absolutely. Well, you're going to attract, this person that's able to see you for that outside of all these other areas that you may think are what's important.
Yeah, and I think with those listening is re-identifying what's important, and then maybe what is important, then looking at that again and being like, well, where did I learn that from?
Yeah.
And why is that important? Is it because of someone else?
Yeah.
Or do I, again, truly believe that this is what I want?
Right.
So is it because what my parents had or what they didn't have?
Right.
And so revisiting those thoughts, I think, is something we can all do. It's just like I mean, this example so much of like, oh, our parents use the same milk, so I'm going to have that milk. I'm going to use those things for my whole life. But it's like, wait, let me think for myself. Like, when I start to think for myself, you actually get clear and you're like, I actually have been chasing the wrong things.
Yeah. Because we're all conditioned from such a young age to believe like whatever your parents do or say is like facts.
Bible.
Yeah. And that's what's right. And obviously, because those are our developmental years, like that's when everything's forming in our minds and our brains. And so, of course, we're going to like believe that to be true.
Yeah.
But yeah, the older you get and separate yourself from that, you're like, wait a minute, like maybe that wasn't what I wanted or who I think I am. That's just who they told me I was.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
What I think is important, maybe not the same as what they find important. And I think releasing like that shame of feeling like these identities that are placed on us from a young age. But yeah, to even speak to being single, I think that it's really challenging because I think ultimately we all desire companionship and to be loved a certain way. And I think you could meet obviously your partner at different stages of your growth. But I think the most important thing is the pursuit of being okay by yourself and feeling that you could accept and love yourself wherever you're at.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, when I find the right person that loves me this way, then I can
be with like it's right now. Like it's such a precious moment because I tell even friends or clients is, you're going to find your person. So enjoy the sweet spot because it won't last forever. This sweet spot of being alone, like find the sweetness right now. And so you've shared your growth journey, things you're currently working on. How do you stay motivated? Like it's constant.
Yeah. I think that to stay motivated, a lot of it comes from what I feel is my purpose in life. Yeah. And I do everything out of that. So it's easy for me to, obviously we get tired, unmotivated. Again, back to like women in our cycles. And there's certain times where you're like, I don't want to do that today. I don't feel the energy capacity to do any of this. Listening to that. But like overall, being motivated is I do feel like I want to really be in active pursuit of being the best version of myself so that I could help other women and touch other lives and be, even if it's just giving people the space to talk and feel loved and heard, like that makes me feel motivated because I know that that's something I have the ability to do every day in my career and even just within friendships. So that's probably my biggest motivation and factor in my life is living my life intentionally and knowing that for me, I believe it's all for a bigger purpose.
Yeah, I love the intentionality piece. I just, it's when you get a hand pick and choose everything in your life. Yeah. Like we are so much more in control than we've ever imagined.
For sure.
And with that thought, if we just kept it simple like that, we are in control. Yeah. And it starts with our thoughts. And, the time has passed. The episode is wrapping up. Is there anything you want to leave listeners with? Any last words or?
I would say it's like so layered to try and put one thing in. But
what comes to your heart?
I would say just to be gracious on yourself.
Yeah.
And every day is, a new day to be intentional and start making decisions that feel healthier and better for yourself. And I think with your platform, even just listening to this is a great step in that direction. Just someone that, everyone's kind of on the same path and wanting to find healing or grow or be in the development space. But just to know that no matter where you are, everything is temporary and you're not going to be in this space forever. And to know that you've been through something similar before and you will come out the other side and you can always pursue and make your life whatever you really want it to be.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
And I single-handedly have done that. And I really believe anyone can. I don't think that we have to be a victim of our circumstances, that we can heal from those things if we actively try every day. And there are so many challenges in life and things can be really hard, but I do think we could see it through and heal from it and come out the other side even better.
Yeah, and knowing that, I truly believe with that statement, just knowing, that knowingness that I'm okay.
Yeah.
Everything is happening, not just for me, but truly embracing that.
Yeah. And any challenge I've really faced in my life that's been an internal struggle or battle, I always look at it like, okay, I'm going to get through this. I've been through something similar. I've learned these tools. I have these resources. And when I come out the other side, I will be able to speak to other people in my exact position at that time, encourage them. And there will be a purpose to all of this ultimately.
And I said this was a wrap-up statement, but I have do you work with a therapist? Do you work with a mentor? Who do you use for your healing journey?
So I do therapy. I go once every 2 weeks, but I feel like throughout the last 10 years, I've gone on and off just depending on what thing I'm facing at the time. I like to go more towards therapy than to, dump on friends or I'm very
same.
I really value people's time and energy. So I feel like, let me go and sit down with someone with an unbiased opinion work through this and find my resource in it to heal, and then actively pursuing just common resources we all have, whether it be people that are encouraging on podcasts, TikTok, whatever. I'm very conscious of what I put in my mind every day. And so I think, I feel like therapy is so amazing. It's such a great, opportunity to just have a place to put all your feelings, if anything. Even when I'm not actively I'm struggling through something, I still like to go.
I love that.
Because I have a lot of thoughts. I'm a very emotional person. So it's
something will come up.
Let me just place it here. And then I feel that release and I move forward.
And I love that. And you also said you read your devotional.
Yeah.
And you got God.
Yeah.
And I just want to acknowledge that. I think that's so beautiful. I recently have revisited religion because it was put on me at a young age of, you're going to, in different homes, you're going to be Catholic or you're going to be Christian. And so for me, I was told what I had to believe, And so we've had a growth year with one of the businesses with James, and he's introduced God to me, and I got my first cross necklace, and he does his devotional every morning. And, I'll sit sometimes after our session right today, I was like, do you want to pray together today? And so I just want to acknowledge that, therapy, God, what you put into your mind. I think it's all intentionally good.
Yeah. To speak on faith, I feel like my faith has been the foundation of my entire life.
I love that.
Growing up, I grew up in a Christian environment. I was in church all the time, but not until I was able to step away and find what that meant to me and my own relationship with God outside of the judgment and I guess parameters of what other people said it was. I think when I was really able to walk in God's grace and love, that's when everything shifted internally for me, as in having a greater understanding of what everything means to me and why everything is so intentional for me. I love to share my faith with people who ask, but I definitely am very conscious of not projecting it onto anyone else, because I want everyone to, see an example rather than me telling them that they should live their life a certain way. Obviously, this is what's working for me, but I love and understand that everyone has different upbringings and different walks of faith. And I just feel like that's a really important part to acknowledge for other people that have different beliefs. And I would say that having a foundation of faith in a higher power in general, I believe, in God and Jesus, but that in itself really allows you to live your life to a fuller purpose and to find a lot of peace and acceptance as well.
Yeah, I love that. Well, where can our listeners find you? On social media?
Yeah, Instagram is at SkyLovey, and TikTok the same. I'm more active on Instagram now. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all the things. I feel like I could talk to you forever. I just feel you're just so special and a light, and I know everyone's receiving that so well. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me the platform to share what you're doing is so amazing and important. So I'm so thankful to be here.
Yay. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I hope you all found Skylar's story as inspiring as I did. She spoke with such honesty about both challenges faced and lessons learned. Skylar held nothing back, wanting to help and encourage others through her experiences. Her journey overcoming adversity is sure to motivate continued growth. I'm grateful, beyond grateful, for Skylar sharing her wisdom. It was such an honor to have her join our conversation today. Here are some few concluding thoughts. Pursuing self-acceptance is a lifelong journey. Be patient and compassionate with yourself as you challenge limiting beliefs and learn to love your whole self. Prioritizing inner joy over seeking approval allows your natural light to radiate freely for the world to see. And thank you again to Skylar for opening up and providing such thoughtful insights. Her daily work empowering women is truly inspiring. I hope you'll check out her socials to continue the motivation. And to all my listeners, keep hustling towards your happiness each and every day. This podcast is here to support you on that journey. Until next time, go forth in confidence and kindness. I hope today's episode left you better than when I found you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tune in every Monday to kickstart your week and set your weekly intentions with me. You can find me and HFH on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, or online at heycourtneybrooke.com. I firmly believe in the power of sharing. If you know someone else who would benefit from this podcast, please share it with them. And remember, when you work on you, I get to be there.